How do the poor people survive in the United States? Perhaps, when we think of living conditions in the United States, we imagine a functional and correct scenario where no one is in need of vital necessities, poverty, or hunger. No doubt, there will be some indignant or homeless people, but nothing extreme. After all, there are always lazy people wherever you go, and, being one of the countries with the most solid economy in the world, the problem can't be that serious, right? But what if we told you that the United States has one of the scariest poverty rates in the world? This is not what we see firsthand when we think about the nation of the Stars and Stripes, which, although it is the richest nation on the planet and home to more millionaires than any other, is also one of the most unequal nations in the world. The United States is home to an average of 329 million people, of which nearly 40 million live in poverty, and 18 million of these 40 million live in extreme poverty, forced to survive in the most varied and unthinkable ways in a country full of wealth and economic strength. Do you know how these people manage? Have you heard of the term Fourth World? If you are interested in knowing more, stay with us. The United States has projected itself throughout history as a land of unparalleled equality and opportunity. That place in the world that other nations aspire to be like, and where millions of people migrate in search of opportunity and new beginnings. This is, in fact, the premise of the famous American Dream, defined by historian James T. Adams with the right that it should be better, richer, and fuller for all people, with opportunity for everyone according to their ability or their work, regardless of their social class or the circumstances from which they come. During the administration of former President Trump, the economy was experiencing record growth and strength not experienced since the 2008 crisis, and the unemployment rate was less than 4%. According to Trump himself, there has never been a better time to start living the American dream. But does this dream correspond to the reality that millions of people live by day? Is it really a land of opportunity for all? Welcome to the Fourth World. This little-known term refers to all those populations that, despite living in developed countries, experience conditions of precariousness, lack of protection, and social risk. Although this phenomenon is not limited to the United States, it is true that millions of people in this country are in need. But then, how do the poor survive in the United States? The answer is simple. They do it like anywhere else in the world, as best they can. The state of California is one of the areas of the country where this can be seen most clearly. California is a state of contrasts. Beaches, sunshine, developed cities, and owner of the sixth strongest economy in the world, yet there is no shortage of homeless areas. There are people who live in their cars, congregated in free parking lots where, in order to offer them a more dignified life, certain organizations put bathrooms, running water, and other services such as small kitchens for common use. These are all kinds of people, particularly seniors and retirees who simply can't afford housing and basic services, not just lazy, addicted, or idle, but people who work very hard as secretaries, nurses, computer scientists, or Uber drivers to earn a living. California is one of the most dynamic states in the world where unemployment is almost non-existent, but still, for many people, it is not enough to pay for housing. In Richmond, Virginia, not too many miles from the nation's capital, 1 in 4 people live below the poverty line. The laws and conditions in Richmond are very harsh in this regard. In states like this one, a landlord can demand the eviction of a tenant if he is only 5 days late in payment. Forced evictions have become routine for the local police and average 3,000 per year and 10 per day, so that cheap hotels with rooms of only 10 square meters are the daily reality for thousands of these evicted people. In states like this, it is not even a matter of getting a new home as soon as you manage to stabilize your situation. Unthinkable in other places, in Richmond, potential landlords can access people's records thanks to public databases on the internet. Any kind of eviction record makes it very difficult to be accepted in the future. Appalachia, in the eastern part of the country, is of great importance in the fight against poverty in the United States. Once famous for its coal production and with almost all of its mines closed, Appalachia is a rural area where it is often said that the American dream has been lost. This situation is not new to the region. As early as 1964, during the election campaign, President Lyndon B. Johnson visited Appalachia and was horrified by the poverty to the point of publicly declaring war on such precarious living conditions. For this reason, he introduced a series of new legislation aimed at eradicating poverty through social assistance, such as the Economic Opportunity Act, the Food Stamp Act, and the Social Security Act, which are still in force today. But the homeless emergency is happening in one of the most emblematic and busy cities in the country, Los Angeles? This may come as a surprise, and rightly so. No one would expect to be the place where poverty could be seen in all its starkness and horror, especially on Skid Row Street, a neighborhood of about 50 blocks where the largest concentration of homeless people in the world is located, and which has earned Los Angeles the title of Misery Capital of the United States, with its approximately 58,000 people living in old tents on sidewalks or under bridges. And it is not even the city with the largest number of evictees in the country, only the one where it is most evident. The largest is New York, with some 76,000 people who, however, at least have shelters and refuges where they can spend the night, and, although the American dream and the ideals it represents are the pillar of the nation, they are viewed with growing skepticism by a not inconsiderable number of people. The lowest percentages of poverty by ethnicity are among the Asian and white populations, with rates of 12.3% and 12.4% respectively, while the most effective are the Black and Native American populations, with rates of 26.2% and 27.6% respectively. The statistics are much more troubling if we break them down by age. Some 9.3% of these homeless are seniors. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, food security is another major problem for the nation. Some 12.3% of the country's households have serious difficulties in providing all their members with the food they need to subsist. All these figures, data, and the experience of hundreds of people around the world reveal one thing. Even with one of the most solid and strongest economies on the planet, with abundant and modern cities and a multitude of social benefits, the United States harbors within its cities and borders some of the most alarming poverty figures in the world. The question now is, can it do anything to combat it? It has been more than half a century since President Johnson declared open war on poverty,
declares unconditional war on poverty in America,
and initiated more than 40 programs to address and combat it. For decades, several of these social assistance programs contributed to this goal. Although statistically, the numbers have declined, the recent increase in these figures in recent years, spurred in large by the COVID-19 pandemic, has managed to increase the number of people living in subhuman conditions in a very short period of time. Currently, along with many of President Johnson's initiatives, numerous initiatives are also being implemented to combat this social crisis, such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, dedicated to helping the thousands of people who subsist on vouchers or criminal justice reforms to combat harsh and rigid laws for these strata, as in the states of Virginia or California. However, opinions are ambivalent. Many people believe that increasing the number of subsidies and welfare payments is not a plausible solution, but rather a cause of the problem by making people dependent on outside assistance. Many advocate that the real solution would be to tackle the causes of poverty, such as social inequality or inflation. What do you think? Did you know that poverty rates were so high in the United States? Do you know of any stories to tell? Do you think this war against poverty can be won? Please don't forget to share your opinion, give us a like, and activate notifications to be informed of the latest news. Best regards, and thanks for watching. See you next time.